sequencing genomes and looking at people's inflammatory genes, their detoxification genes. And what we love to do is really educate on, here are your susceptible genes when you're providing low quality energy and information to your body. Yeah. However, here are the vast array of completely high functioning genes that you can access if you are working at the energetic level, working with your field and understanding the interplay of that. So
wow, that's huge.
Yeah, so we're kind of building from the inside out, and a lot of people have gravitated towards it.
I'm sure they have. It makes sense, but I need to ask how, I mean, the thing is, to play that in that world, you obviously need some fairly sophisticated technology, you know, at least some kind of sort of digital analyzer that can give you the gene code, and presumably then also the ability for your software to analyze which ones are kind of talking.
Exactly. Yeah, so there's a group out there called Your Genomic Analysis, and Bob Miller is the CEO, co-founder, and head researcher. He is a very honest and devoted person working with the human genome in a very holistic manner, honestly, and looking at which genes have the most data behind them, the most real, peer-reviewed data behind it, and how it reflects in probability of that gene malfunctioning. And his software program, after the genome is sequenced, will separate all of the genes into categories and their probabilities. And many people have higher probabilities of producing inflammation, for example, in X pathway, and you can target nutrition towards that pathway. Very, you can narrow in on that pathway and mitigate any of the possible effects of that inflammatory pathway getting hold of the person because of a higher probability of that happening.
Right. So what you're saying is that your clients are invited to send a hair sample or something to
saliva,
to this organization. Do they send them a little tube first? So they've got to engage. So it's a sort of week or two. They then send the sample, and then you have access to this data.
Exactly. It's actually it's 6 weeks, 6 to sometimes 10, depending on how busy the lab is. They're kind of small grassroots right now. They'll grow. But
how much does it cost to do that process?
It costs me $200. It costs the client anywhere from $250 to $300, just depending on what we're doing.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So so then this is a very interesting, I mean, in a way, what you're now saying is exactly what I was inviting us to do, which is work on that rock face. It's a huge subject, but you've got your chosen aspect, and that's brilliant, because that's real leading edge stuff. The only thing I would say, which I have to say because it came to mind whilst you were speaking, is that I wonder, what you're talking about is the machine, the body, the system, the temple, and yet there's that other aspect which isn't necessarily reflected in the genes. Okay,
right.
So so what is that aspect? And I was thinking, well, they've got the Biofield viewer, they don't need anything else. That's what I do. But in fact, what I was thinking was, have you come across human design?
No.
Good. Okay, well, just make a note of human design, because that may give you the piece that you need between Biofield viewer and the gene kind of scheduling. And the reason why I say that is because it embraces the individual soul, in other words, birth date. And if you go to a website, it's called Jovian, Jovian, but it's not just called Jovian, it's called Jovian something. But if you're searching Google, you'll find it. And it's a free way that you can input your data and create your human design. And it looks very similar to Biofield viewer image, because it has all the chakras on it and all of the currents between the chakras. And I mean, I haven't done any formal research with it, but I have definitely gotten inspired by it. And as I said, in this call, it came in like, I need to share this because it could be the
Thank you.
bridge. It could be the bridge, you know, that, you know, I think you'll find it very fascinating because there's a whole, you know, like there are astrologers, there's a whole group of people who do human design. And so you'll have your chart and then they will interpret it for you. But actually, I think you need to do the homework on what all that shit is, because like I said, I feel this is part of the understanding the gene, the wing marriage. And that's a joint of some kind, you know. Okay, let's look at some pictures, buddy.
Appreciate you. Yeah, let's do that. Did I share it?
I can't see any pictures. I'm going to put
Oh,
my
okay.
screen into just me mode so I can see and talk. And brilliant picture, excellent image, well done.
This is my friend who's actually here. Do you have time to speak to him, or we?
Yeah.
I can
invite him to sit next to you. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got about an hour and 20 minutes, I reckon, from here. Maybe a bit longer.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you.
I said I got about an hour and 20 minutes, I think.
Okay, perfect. Ciao, gracias.
Hello.
Hello, hola.
Hola. Do you speak English?
Yes, I am English. I'm American.
Brilliant. I'm looking at your picture on my screen.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, very beautiful. I'm going to help you navigate the stepping stones before you.
Okay.
What's your good name?
Robert.
Robert, can you invite Sonny to come back? Because I'd like him to hear as well, just because of his training. If he misses out on...
He's just getting some water.
Yeah, totally. I get that. So would you say that you think too much, Robert?
Think too much?
Yeah.
Let me think about that.
Let me think about that.
No, but are you a mentalizer? Do you is that something that's worth doing over time?
Yeah. I mean, it's my profession requires me to think very, very much.
Okay, but I didn't say much. I said too much.
Huh.
Do you feel like you think too much?
Probably. Yeah, that's been one of my goals, is to quiet the mind more.
Right, because that's what's showing up in your field, of deeply spiritual man with huge potential for serving divinity, who sabotages that divine process by mind fucking about it.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Well, I'm sorry, what Thornton. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it, Thornton.
Yeah. So I just want to help you navigate that forest. And the best way to address the issue of overthinking is breathing.
Yes.
Yeah. So the thing is, you're a shallow breather, and in the divine charts, when we're born, we have a preordained number of breaths. It's in the Vedas. Yours may be 5,700,621, and there's not the fuck you can do about it. That's your preordained number of breaths in the great cosmic, timeless game. Okay? So you take them deep and slow unless you're having meaningful sex.
Which I haven't had in a while. So.
Working on it.
So shallow breathing doesn't work for you because you take these breaths and you're only taking 10%. You're not taking your fair share of pran when you breathe. So this is why I'm bringing this to your attention, so that you can put it in the front and go, I now need to consciously breathe, especially when I'm mentalizing.
And Thor, is that because of the pattern on the chest that you're
No, no. It's when I see a lot of yellow in the field, in this rectangle of his field, there's lots. You see the white down on the side and the yellow coming up, and then there's yellow on the other side, and the green is there and orange, but there's a lot of yellow, the yellow to the left of his head.
Right.
That's the first sign. And yellow comes before white. Yellow is basically sabotaged white. White is pure divinity. Yellow is one grade brightness lower. So you're on the top of the mountain. You've done all the work, but you're just not prepared to go into the shrine. And that doubt is what we're going to lance right now, like a boil. Because otherwise you're in the waiting room. It's like you're literally sitting in the waiting room until you take this leap. Everything is waiting. It's like the foyer. You're in the foyer of the spirit club, and it's like, wow. So I want to clarify why that is. And hi, I didn't want to disappear from you, Robert. I am here. You see also Sonny in the jaw here. Okay, this is a sign of clenching. Okay, and clenching is what we do because of the TMJ. If you imagine the Rolling Stones stage, there's these bundles of cables where all the speakers and all the amplifiers come together, and they have to even build a little bridge over these things because otherwise you'll trip over them. That's the TMJ. You know, there's 4,000 nerves piling down through in here. So if there's any mental stuff going on, especially by the evening, we clench. So it's a telltale sign of this mentalizing. So you've got two clues. One is the yellow in the field, and the other is the pink on the jaw. Now, I would also suggest that maybe you're grinding or you've affected your dental, structure in a way, Robert.
Yes, that's true.
So I would highly recommend oil pulling and this kind of thing, because this is kind of sacred turf. Your mouth is, the entrance to your temple, and a lot of fellows like to get in there. And at the moment, what you've got is bacteria in this tiny cracks in your teeth, and they're having a party, especially if you have any metal in there. If you have an old filling or a bridge or a crown or something, it then becomes an acid house party, because those guys are basically corroding into the metal. They like to eat it, and it off gases toxins. So if do you have any metal in your mouth, Robert?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I figured. So this is my point, is that you need to improve your oral hygiene.
Yep, doing that.
And your breath work, and then literally they'll be wanting you to start an ashram yourself.
Well, and you're absolutely spot on, Thornton. I have a new dentist that we have a plan and a program. So
are they holistic? Are they holistic dentists?
Yes, to a degree. They're not.
They didn't say oil pulling though, right?
No, they didn't say oil pulling, but they're talking about doing things like getting a mouth guard at night so I don't grind my teeth. And
no, forget that, dentist. That's not what we're doing. You're going to do breath work, and then you stop mind fucking, and then you don't grind.
I do breath work. I do breath work every morning every morning.
Okay, well, that's not good enough. Your whole day needs to be your morning.
Yeah.
You need to reprogram yourself.
Look at the types. There's a bunch of pranayams.
Okay.
It's worth investigating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even go there. I would just consciously breathe, Robert. Like, this is my thing. Like, I got taught how to drive by a lunatic, and I grind my gearbox and my clutch, and now I've got to learn how to stop burning out clutches, because I just don't have a spare anymore. So stop burning out your clutch, mate. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, dentists are great. I love them. But be very gentle with that. And it's a much more of a sacred thing. To give you an example, every single tooth is a musical instrument. Okay, and it bangs against the one below it, and it percusses. which sends a beautiful signal down the meridian, or the nadis as we call them. Yeah. And so if you don't have a tooth in a particular place, it doesn't get that harmonic backflush every moment that you're banging your teeth together. So it gets neglected. It becomes like an oxbow lake, that meridian. And so, for example, on the left side in the back, where there's quite a lot of pink, do you have any teeth missing?
I have, yes, I do.
Okay, so then Sonny, do me a favor, look up the map of the meridians, the dental meridian map, and show Robert which tooth is missing, which organ that relates to. And then he'll have another aha moment, you know, and then it's like, okay, well, that meridian or that nadi is not getting its, you know, daily.
Yeah.
It's a kind of, it's like the sensor's gone. You know, when a sensor on your car can alert you, these sensors are always percussing and sending signals down the meridians. And it's a hugely important relationship. And we're blessed that we've got all these sort of ingredients now, because it's then a second level of assessment, because that then is going to relate to which organ is going to be affected. And you know, it could be your spleen. You know, you see that pink. If you come down the left-hand side of his body, there's that pink. Can you put your mouse on it so I know? Yeah, down. No, that's shadow on the body, left.
Oh, here.
There. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The where you were pointing is the gap between the arm and the body. So that's just shadow in there.
Oh, okay. But then it's asymmetrical.
Yeah, well, do you mean that? Well, yeah, but okay, so let's look at that then. Have you got, can you go up to his left shoulder?
It is left. Okay.
Yeah, up there. You see what, higher, right on the edge. See that pink?
Yep.
Okay, now, do you think the left shoulder is higher than the right shoulder?
Yes.
How many millimeters?
A few, 5, 3, 4, maybe.
Right. So what you've got there is a subluxation in the spine, which is, we get to see it as, because we have a frame in our image. So when we see someone like that normally, we don't notice. But because we have a frame and we can zoom the picture up, if you zoom it up or down or anything, you'll see that left shoulder. Yeah, leave it at that size. Now scroll the picture down so the shoulders hit the white line at the bottom. Up there's fine, up there's fine. Yeah, you can see it now. The right shoulder is clearly a little bit lower. And it's interesting because the left shoulder's got a lot of tension on it. But the right shoulder doesn't. So Robert, when you were young, did you come off over the handlebars of your bicycle?
Oh, even more recently, I'm a competitive weightlifter, and I've hurt my left shoulder 3 separate times.
Ah, okay. Well, then that explains it. Okay. Okay. So, okay. Well, that's good in a way, because that explains the pain we're seeing in the shoulder, Sonny, locally, which I prefer. Do you have any more pictures of Robert? Do you have any leg images or any images? Ah, okay. Perfect. I want to see the back shot. Yeah, turn him around there. Okay. Now you see the left side of the underwear is higher than the right side. No, you were doing good before, actually. There. You see the left side of the underwear is a tiny bit higher than the right. If you pull that down, you'll see it's like a few mil on the left as well. So in other words, the whole of the left side is elevated.
Yeah.
So tell me about your feet, Robert. Do you have any ankle or knee issues?
Not really.
Do you have collapsed arches? Do you have flat feet?
I have very high arches.
Ah, you have very high arches. Okay.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
I have martial art feet.
okay, cool. So your right knee never gives you any jip at all.
No.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's I was seeing that too, right? That we're looking at this here.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just the contrast between the other leg. I mean, there is going to be a very good reason for this, and we will get it. We will get there. Okay, Sonny. Now, notice how the hands hang. You see the right hand is hanging a few millimeters lower than the left hand.
Yep.
In fact, probably you can see that more than the shoulders. So what's interesting is in a two-dimensional image with the biofield information, you're getting clues to see something that perhaps you wouldn't normally notice. So that's why, and this is even in a chakra viewer. So if I had it in biofield viewer mode, I would be able to speak with much more definity. Okay, now stop a second, Sonny. Why doesn't he have knee pain? Is because this is the real picture. The other one was darker, and I think because of his boxer shorts creating shadow down his legs, it sort of over accentuated patterns. And that's why I like to take lots of images so you can, you can average out. Yeah, you can see you've got a great physique and how you are a weightlifter. Amazing. So are you frustrated about anything, Robert?
Just tell him.
So
He already knows.
Relationship, man.
Right. Okay. So where we see frustration, Sonny, is in the knuckles and the hands. And it comes from the throat chakra because you're not able to speak your truth in the way that you want to because that person isn't there in this case or whatever it is. So there's a sense of frustration. And so that frustration leads to a kind of, because the throat chakra is totally connected to the hands, sign language, the hands are literally like the tongue. It's like the tongue speaking. And so when we can't speak or when we're frustrated about something, it gets into our knuckles, and that's that arthritic tendency that we see. And whenever you see people with pink little patches in their hands and in the wrist there, it's a reflection of this kind of frustration becoming an acidic kind of a acidy type thing.
Yeah.
So again, get laid and breathe, buddy.
Are you seeing the
I was trying to, Thornton.
Stop trying.
I came pretty close.
Are you seeing is this the throat then?
Yeah,
right
ironically, we haven't even talked about that yet, but that is that. Yeah, absolutely. So the throat, you can see the lovely little green circle in the middle. You see what Robert's issue is that he speaks his truth, but he doesn't feel heard.
Wow.
True. That happened recently. I spoke tremendous truth
about love,
about my feelings for someone and it simply wasn't heard.
Yeah.
Well, it was heard, but it wasn't acknowledged.
Yeah, I know. Shit happens, dude. But it was probably pointing the wrong direction. I mean, your ardor is fabulous. It just needs to, connect with the right soul body. I would get on some good. Sonny, send the boy on a couple of yoga retreats. They're about 60-1 women to boys. I mean, can't fail to.
Not the tight pants there. That's true.
Oh my God.
Shy's in the room.
I love this.
Shy's laughing.
Yoga pants 60-1. Shit, sign me up. When's the next one?
Okay, so let's now that we've stripped you down naked, Robert, let's build you back up again, because I really honor you, and I honor your golden expansion. Being in your space is a really beautiful experience for people, and you are a healer. Absolutely, with no doubt, you're a healer. And the only thing is, you've got to direct some of that healing power on yourself right now, because you're too tight up top. So that's why you see, for example, this girl, I'm going to explain to you why this girl didn't hear you. Okay. And she didn't hear you because on a subconscious level, she knew you weren't available.
Yeah.
Okay, and why you're not available is because you got to deal with this other stuff first.
Mm.
because you don't have the capacity yet to take on the stress of a neurotic 50-plus-year-old woman.
45.
Yeah, you just don't have that yet because you're mind fucking and clinching. You know, you need to get into the egg cup mode, where, you know, all that stuff doesn't phase you because you've got to serve and heal. You know, this girl's not going to come pre-packaged with a bow. You have to evolve together, and that's what you're doing first, is just that weight training, but no waiting, you know. Yeah, that's ironic, isn't it? Okay, so I want to speak to your why she doesn't, why she knows you're not available. And Sunny, when we see pink on the chest, yeah, that relates to a kind of sadness. Okay, and it could be that Robert is sad about something, which you know, we've already understood that he's lonely. That's sad. But I wonder whether it's also something he's kind of wearing as a badge of honor, you know, like military medals. For example, have you lost a parent, Robert, recently? Right.
2 years ago.
Yeah, so this is what he's doing. He's actually honoring his parents by wearing this badge of honor. He's wearing his father's medals, kind of thing. And this is a process which he's going through, and that's why he's not available, because to somebody else, it looks like something else. Subconsciously. It looks like, oh, wow, this guy's not available. Where actually, he's just grieving. And over 2-3 years, all of that stuff gets processed, and then you kind of, you're better and stronger for it. Some of the loneliness, sadness may be on that band of medals as well. There could be 2 medals of sadness and 2 medals of grief, but all of them add up to being a confusing subconscious message to the parties. Now, ironically, a lot of that stuff relates to lymphatics from the teeth and this soldier injury. So to a subconscious, open-hearted 45-year-old lady, she doesn't know about any of that stuff. She's just observing subconsciously this shielding. So it's just, you know, hang it up, hang your shield up, buddy. It's a heavy piece of kit. Put it in your sacred temple and go back and once a year honor the great knight you were and the great knights your ancestors were. But right here and now, that's a lot of metal to be carrying around.
Yeah.
Is there a reason that you said father's medals?
No. It's just an analogy. Absolutely no reason at all. You know, it's just you see, Robert is very open-hearted. He's very sensitive. He's all about family and love and feeling. And I mean, I think that pool that I was addressing earlier is now gone green, and the bit below it has gone pink, which is really kind of in the mother zone. You know, the wife, the daughter, the girls, the home. And that's the shield that he's got up. It's a little kind of side shield, like a flap on an aeroplane. And it's
Sorry,
just
where are you referring to?
exactly where you're, oh, sorry, go down with your mouse. There. That's mum.
The mother's area. You're
In
right.
a chakra viewer image, that's mother, daughter, sister, home kind of thing. The feminine, the divine feminine. And so what's happened is that this invitation from Robert to his soulmate is now got cobwebs on it on the mantelpiece. So I'm saying, you know, digest that old invitation. They can't read the font, you know, get up to now and then put the invitation back out again. It's like that. It's that kind of thing. But you know, you're a deeply psychic man, so you got to trust that. So you got to trust that you know what's going on, and you have spent your whole life benefiting from having a really good relationship with your gut feeling. I have to say that's you know, there's lots of brilliant things that you've tuned into yourself about. And this is why I can have this very advanced top table discussion with you, where I tell you how it is. And I know you're going to take it. You're not going to be offended. You're already there. So then I'm just gifting you the spaghetti, the last knot kind of untangle process, dental, clenching, that's oil pulling. I mean, personally, I would remove metal in my mouth holistically. You know, that's just the nature of the game. But
it's interesting you talk about the women. I have 3 daughters.
Yeah.
And my oldest daughter just gave birth to her second child, a granddaughter of mine. So that it happened 3 weeks ago.
Did your wife pass away, or did you separate?
We separated 16 years ago.
Wow. What was the story behind that?
She's a lunatic.
Yeah. So your capacity to handle lunatics was pretty limited, was it?
Back then, it was very limited, and she did. And yeah,
I think also with your mom and your relationship,
Mm-hmm.
what she kind of put you through,
Yeah,
that may be reflected on that left side.
could be.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. Your wife probably has gotten faded from your field. Yeah, so can we just scan around the body again before I let Robert go and have a cup of tea? Yeah, so you know, there's a bit of a lean, isn't there, across to the right there on the hips. Is that because you like driving big muscle cars with clutches?
No, I drive a V automatic.
Yeah. No, but in your youth, did you do a lot of kind of grunt driving?
Yeah, used to have a 57 Chevy.
And didn't you drive tanks?
And I drove a tank in the Army.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just, you see, if you're sitting in a chair and you extend your right leg out or your left leg out a lot, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Because we're effectively tree climbing monkeys. We don't sit in padded chairs and cut off the muscles in our ass to then just have whatever's going on in the legs. So, and also you're a weightlifter. So all I'm saying is that, you know, there's a little twist in your system, and that's something you can swim out or Tai Chi out or yoga out. But definitely those, I mean, I would pick 2 if I was you. I'd do Tai Chi and swimming.
Yeah, I'm also a martial artist, so I do martial arts.
Yeah, I get that. That's brilliant. I mean, I see that you're healthy and spectacular, but I'm trying to give you a key to hotwire that beast that you are so that it performs better in lunatic situations.
Okay.
Got it.
So teeth,
Breathing, breath
breathing, definitely. So not just breath work in the morning and at night, but during just
consciously breathe, breathe. And then what you'll find is that you're actually playing the chess game between your mind fucking and your breath bringing in light. I mean, that's like, what do you want? Do you want toxic fumes, or do you want pure raw material for anything?
I have a question about the teeth. I have 4 missing teeth.
Yeah.
2 on each side.
Yeah.
2 right next to each other back here. Do I put implants in there? Does that help? Or
No, not at all. Implants are ghastly. No, what you want to do is you want to learn something like tapping, so that you can tap your own meridians, or, you know, just that's the point. We have a mind and we have a skill set, and we can apply that. I would never add into your mouth, only ever take away. This is somebody else, is it?
This is him, Biofield.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Right. Okay. Pardon me. Okay. Thank you. So yeah, we see the clenching. You seem to have a lot more hair than you do, but of course you're wearing a hat. So brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, we can see that shoulder lean and everything much more, the tightness of it all in here, Sonny. You know, I don't even think his shoulders are directly above his waist. I can see his right shoulder is over his right waist.
Mhm.
and his left shoulder is inside of his leg. You see what I mean? Like the top.
Mhm.
That,
Mhm.
in other words, if you drop a plumb line from the nose down to the belly button, it would skew off to the right of the belly button.
Yep.
Yeah. So sounds like you're going to have lots of lovely massages, Robert.
I have one next Friday, actually.
Sweet.
How
Great.
about chiropractor?
No, I don't really like chiropractors. I think you got to do the work yourself. I think you've got to do the Tai Chi and build up that. Because a martial artist, you've got all this stuff going out. And as a teacher, you know, all of your energy is going to your students. So what we're talking about is just that little shuffle back at the end of the day or in the beginning of the day where you're actually bringing it all into the center. I mean, I don't know. Swimming certainly would help because that gives you the sort of gravitational support of the water. And you know, there's all kinds of cool variations on water and massage. There's something called Watsu, which is huge, and it's kind of a combination of rebirthing and it's unbelievable. I mean, look into it.
Okay.
And there, I'm sure you'll find your wife also.
Hatsu?
Watsu, W-A-T-S-U. Yeah. There's a really nice center in near Pondicherry
Oh, in India.
in the Dune Resort. Yeah, that Watsu. I mean, that's one of the guys that started it.
Thor, can I ask you a root cause type of question here?
Yeah.
If one were to have very deep emotional, energetic imprints put on their body via masculine or feminine energies,
Yeah.
would that accumulation that we see on the left here, could that possibly be causing the misalignment of the central meridian and the body as a whole? Could it push everything to the right so things get skewed over time, I mean?
A very good question. Nobody's ever asked me that before. Yes, I absolutely think that.
Okay.
Although, because you're now talking about flow, really, and you know,
Yeah.
this is like a rock in the flow, and so you know everything's going to be going around and meandering that way, and so you end up with the river meandering. So yeah, that actually is probably what we're talking about. But all I would say is that because this is a biofield viewer image, and the other ones we've been looking at are chakra viewer images. The chakra viewer images is the kind of
Emotional, energetic stuff.
yeah,
right?
but it's also the early warning system because
Right.
these things are all happening long before any physicality. So now, but be careful because that point that you're ringing right there is green in other pictures and the bit below it is red.
We're talking this here?
Yeah, exactly where you are. In another image, keep going. You see, look,
This
there,
is-
it's green there and the bit below it is red.
Oh, so what is that?
Well, that just means that that entire area is vacillating between green and red. You know, I mean that that whole meridian is. It's in other words, what organ is in there?
Well, you got large intestine, spleen, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So I said first spleen, didn't I? When we looked at
You
the
did.
top of it, and now it looks more like large intestine. But the spleen to me is obviously the key organ because the spleen, Robert, in Vedic science, the spleen is a very interesting organ because like the kidneys clean the blood,
Right.
the spleen is the welcoming house for pran. Now, this is something not many people understand. They think pranayama is a breathing exercise where pran comes into the mouth. That's not true at all. The lungs are for the biochemistry, exhaling carbon dioxide and inhaling oxygen. It's nothing to do with prana. But what happens is when we breathe, we pump the diaphragm. So the inhalation of the lungs pumps the diaphragm, and the diaphragm becomes like bellows. And that bellows, it energizes the, like in, you know, the fire in a
Yeah.
you know, a metal fellow, sorry. Yeah. The forge, in the forge fire. So what the diaphragm is doing is setting the splenic chakra spinning. Okay, and then that draws prana in to the spleen. And so when you come to modern medicine, those guys don't even know what the spleen is. They think they can just remove it. They don't even know what it does, technically, because they don't have that understanding of biochemistry and biophysics that Sonny does, for example. So that's another indicator, Sonny, of how I knew he wasn't breathing. The yellow, the jaw, and the pink over the splenic region. So, Robert, how's your digestion?
It's okay.
Do you get constipated ever, or are you more loose?
Yeah, every now and then. This week I have been.
Right. Okay. So that may be what we're kind of seeing, Sonny, is just a kind of sense of constipation, and that's just because he keeps having his massages too far ahead of time. It should be tomorrow, not next Friday. He should have seen me a year ago and not now. He's just a bit late.
Mm-hmm.
Story of my life.
Catch the bus, buddy.
You're catching up, man. You're catching
Day
up.
late, dollar short.
Anyway, I honor you, sir. I think you're a bright, loving, kind, intuitive, sensitive man who doesn't feel heard and is a bit frustrated about that. And these are all gentle, kind, loving lessons for you to learn to become even more relevant.
Thank you.
He is. He really is. Special human being.
Cool. Okay, well, you can go and have a coffee now.
Okay, I'm gonna go have a coffee now.
Clear some of those tubes.
Yeah, get some breathing.
That's good, man.
Thank you.
Not at all.
That was awesome.
Yeah. So these are like, hang on.
Brilliant.
What
Is this
that?
lady present?
She unfortunately left and doesn't know English.
Okay. So you'll give her a translation or something. So
Yeah.
this is a Colombian lady in her late 40s?
Late 40s. Yep.
Okay. So you notice there's a kind of speckled kind of effect.
Yes.
It's kind of not the lines aren't clear, are they? They're not snapping like rainbow, red, green, orange, or green, blue, green. It looks more like a map of the Outer Hebrides or something.
Yeah.
Lots of little islands.
You're saying in the surrounding field, right?
And even on the body, funnily enough, lots of
Yeah.
speckles, not very straight lines. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Pink on the chest. First question I'd ask this lady is, what are you sad about?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, with Robert, we went through that whole dog and pony show of medals and blah, 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 blah. But I could just as easily have said, what are you sad about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lovely blue in the throat chakra, nice symmetry. You see those kind of two rings under her bra strap? I mean, I like that symmetry. That's kind of shows she's really working, she's kind of in touch, her body and her mind, kind of, she's in sync with herself. Her shoulders are hunched up though, and her neck, she's obviously got some kind of top of the back, lower neck problem, and she's all like this, isn't she, almost? And if you go into detail, you'll notice the left shoulder is short and tight. I'm going to put my camera back on. The left shoulder is short and tight, and the other shoulder seems quite long and drawn. So there's something going on in there. And of course, again, what these girls need more than anything is permission to touch each other. You're in a lovely village, and all these, they could. All you need is a massage open day, and get them all touching each other, because 10 years ago, 20 years ago, these girls wouldn't have left each other alone like this to go all kind of crispy. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's and this girl, hire her. She can be giving foot massage. This is a very healing woman who's just burnt out by sadness, and probably her husband's a wanker, I should imagine.
So the green in the aura is what you would define as sort of a healing type of
love, healing,
yeah.
kind, green, healthy. She has the best colors I like of all. You'll hear me say this, the green and the gold. Unless someone's doing yellow and white and they're kind of in the divine play, this is green and gold. This is earth woman, you know, loving, kind goddess, the kind of person you want working in your clinic, making people tea and looking after them. And because she's a little bit, yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn, and there's no evidence that her husband is troublemaker, so I'll take that back. I just had that sense of her being a bit kind of invaded.
Well, why don't we just go there then? Because he was here too.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, I really spoke out of turn there, Sonny. That was me.
no, don't worry about it, man. I love it.
Cool. Well, he's a mentalizer, isn't he, this fellow?
Yes, I would say that's accurate. Sorry, I don't know.
No, this happened something. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the worst picture of him you've got. So forget that one. I scrub images like this. If I've got 20 images and a couple of them come out dark, I just think that you know, the pro feature on your Biofield viewer, have you got that on? Yeah, leave that on all the time. You see, this image is great because we can speak to the patterns. Are they all this dark? I thought you had a brighter picture.
You know, it's interesting. I don't know why things sort of darkened up when we were doing it.
Only his facing image is like that.
Yeah.
That is interesting. But the thing is, I know this is a very common thing with Biofield imaging because the pro is, how do I say it? It's working to make the best image it can for interpretation purposes. So it may jump down an octave of brightness in order to show that detail. But you know, but anyway, I mean, he looks a bit skew-whiff, doesn't he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is he physically a bit sort of bent? Does he look like he's
very much poor posture? Yes.
Yeah. What does he do? Does he hammer? Is he a hammerer?
He's kind of he does a lot of land work, farming and stuff
right,
like that.
He's a hard working fella.
Mm-hmm.
Come back soon. Yeah. Okay, well, let's look at his back shot because let's start here. Okay, so looking at the pinky lines coming down across kind of the back of his liver kind of thing, you take your mouse and go down the pink line, the other side actually. Sorry, yeah. Follow that pink line down. You see it zigzags and thickens out, but then it also goes back up. You see that's pain. What you're and then if you go down, you can see each vertebrae one by one. There's like 5 of them, and the top one is pink, and then that bottom one is pink. Yeah, you put your hand exactly on those 2 spots next time you see him.
Okay.
Because he doesn't even know they hurt.
He actually told me they do.
Ah, okay, that's good. That's good. Okay. Yeah, he's got a dull ache, but what I meant to say, he doesn't even know where the source of the pain is.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, those 2 vertebrae are under quite a lot of pressure right now.
Right.
And
so you're saying this one up here and then these down here.
Yeah, he's feeling the pain, which is all that pink, which is the sort of thing you just traced down for me.
Right.
Yeah, he's feeling that.
Yeah, and then so this would be sort of a similar thing here.
Well, it's exactly counter. It's the counterweight, isn't it? It's his body having to still farm. So in order to protect the lower area, you create these what I call safe modes, where the muscles are under extra tension, and eventually it becomes a pain in the neck, basically. But it's what we have to do for tensegrity, Bucky Fuller type stuff. And tensegrity of the biofield is the term I'm most likely to use to describe that very important symmetrical coherence, because until you have tensegrity, you can't have rightness. It's like putting a tent up. If you put a tent up wrong, the wind will blow it over. So you can't handle strong winds. So that's what we're talking about in terms of the tensegrity. So he's a thoughtful fellow, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at that posture. Both him and his wife are doing it. You know, the kind of sore neck forward. It's standing lazy, actually. That's standing lazy, because what you're doing when you're like that, you're locking your body onto your hips, and you're locking your neck onto your shoulders, and it's mechanical breaks rather than under the tensegrity of muscles and tendons. And you know, if you start to do, and that's a 13-pound ball he's carrying around, and now he's having to use all his shoulders because it's effectively tipping forward. And this is because of all of the you know, hard work he's been doing. Now all that yellow, wow, Mr. Mentalizer. I mean,
think that's pretty accurate, yeah.
Once you start kind of working with your local community, and you're in a different country, you have to work out what language to use, not just to relate to them, but also, you know, to really help them comply with your recommendations, because if it's alien to them, they're just not going to do it. So, you know, what to say? This is, you know, how are you going to get a 8-year-old man to start, you know, stretching or anything? You know, he's stuck in his ways, this fellow. So yeah, I don't know. I'd be very interested to see how that works out. It's a very interesting dynamic, isn't it? You know, between the wife and the husband. The husband's kind of very spiritual, very mental. She's very kind of heart spacey, and yet looks a little bit frazzled by all that speckling. So
oh, okay. So okay.
Is this how you're somebody else?
I'm just going back to her again.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. This is her again, is it?
This is her again, yeah.
Okay, well, you know, that's quite a scramble, isn't it?
Yeah.
She doesn't feel that heard. She's got sort of pink patches on either side of her torso. The mother side is darker, but the father-husband side is, it's kind of, you can see the channel, but you can see it filling up in the middle as well. She's just a bit exasperated, this one. Do you know what I mean? She needs a bit of, I mean, these are things she's not going to necessarily even admit to either. So it's, well, she will to you, but it's the engagement process. You know, these two guys could run your kitchen for you, and you know, do all the food for the 300 people that you serve every day. They're those kind of people that want to stop doing hard physical work in the fields, but just built to do hard physical work. But they, you know, they need appreciation, and they want to be part of a community. And especially her, she would really thrive if she was, because this is a really lovely, kind girl who's just a bit put out at the moment. I guess, you know, it's hard times. I don't know. She's got lots of kids, does she?
She has one who I think they're not super communicative. They used to live in the big city and moved out before the pandemic to the village, but they compromised a lot of their finances because of it. So they actually come here. She comes here to clean,
right?
And we sort of help her out from that standpoint. But there is a sense of being a little bit, like you said, exacerbated for sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, you know, I can see these people are all part of your growing family, so that's a beautiful thing. And she's totally intuitive, this one. I mean, wow.
She's wonderful. She's really wonderful.
Yeah. So breath work. Is she a clencher?
I'd have to ask, are you seeing that?
Well, it's just she's got pink in her jaw a little bit.
Yeah. I'd have to find out.
Yeah, I mean, ask her about frustration and sadness.
Okay.
But do it in a nice way, but it is, gee, what to say? You can see that. So he was not working in the fields 3 years ago. He was up telegraph poles, was he, or something?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he was doing in the city, but
Because he's a farmer who doesn't actually know how to farm. He's learning as he goes.
yeah, it's a little bit makeshift, yes. Yeah.
Well, good on them for choosing, to go green. I mean, that is always going to pay off.
Yeah, they've been really happy. I think
they're both so light and bright, aren't they? I mean, I'm just a tiny bit suspicious of him, I hope that you get to open him up a little bit because, he's got a lot on his shoulders right now, literally, so maybe she's a bit sad about being alienated from her child if she's only got one. Is it alienation by geography or by emotion?
I think it's geography, but I'm not positive.
Right. Yeah. Well, so lucky them, lucky them. I mean, look at that white light on his chest. This is, I mean, he looks like a priest there. He's really in communion with divinity,
Yeah, they are deeply spiritual, well, religious, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. But he sabotages all that by mind fucking about it,
That makes a lot of sense too. We have one last gentleman who's our neighbor.
Yeah.
He has begun having, or should I even tell you, or do you want to just look at it?
Oh no, I think this is part of the learning experience. It'd be good to tell me, and then we can.
Yeah. So he has begun having arrhythmias. We haven't gotten all the details yet, but it sounds like he may need some kind of ablation procedure for his heart. Not need, but obviously that's what it will be recommended as. And
have you seen those machines where they inflate the airbags around the legs?
Inflate? No, yeah.
They're like sort of cardiovascular massages. And if you catch something like this early enough, you can pop on one of those machines. Of course, you're in Colombia. I mean, the last place I saw one was in Chennai. This guy had a whole hospital, cardiovascular hospital, holistic hospital with these amazing machines in them with these sort of blue canvas inflatable sacks, and you sort of threaded yourself in them. But anyway, that's what just sprung to mind. This is the fellow, is it, that you're talking about?
Yes. He is very overworked, very stressed. He works in a textile industry in the nearby town, or in a factory. I think he has some chemical agent exposure there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's lucky to have a job on the one hand, isn't he? I should imagine. What to say? So he's clenching and he's mind fucking and he's I think that white patch on the wall has appeared quite a few times now.
Yeah.
In the different peeps. So we don't need to speak about that. That's just a bit of sunlight. And it's not in a relevant place really for being any significance for the individual, because that would be more like an entity. If we saw something like that in the outer field. But the yellow we can speak to, and that yellow wants to be white. It just isn't, because of these things holding him down. Can I see more pictures? I'd like to see his chest in he doesn't trust his intuition. That's interesting.
Where how did you see that?
There.
Well,
he's got a pink there, all the pink on his forehead.
Okay. And he gets migraines. He gets a lot of migraines.
Ah, interesting. That white is a lot more valid. This is a really nice picture of him. This is, wow, this is the little shaman inside that poor textile worker's body, isn't it?
It would fit the bill.
Yeah, wow. You see, he'd be taking ayahuasca, running around the jungle in a perfect world.
Mm. That's what we're doing, yeah.
We'll take him with you.
Yeah, I would not mind that at all.
He looks like he could do with a flight.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what he needs. And they all probably need that. They all probably need some of their own natural medicine and it'll help them come to terms with their daily lives a lot better.
So interestingly, with the background of the arrhythmia, are
Mhm.
you seeing anything in the field that would point to, like, I know in his biofield viewer, there's a lot of shielding pattern.
Oh, hang on. Shielding is congestion. Shielding is, I call it shielding, as you know, because I don't want to project onto a client that he's blocked in any way. Because he is subconsciously creating those blockages in the same way we create cancer as to save you from immediate death. You know, it's a compromise. So underlying it, yeah, I mean, there's in it to see that much pink on the chest in a biofield viewer image as opposed to a chakra viewer image. Absolutely, we're talking about cardiovascular and his whole
pulmonary system, it seems, right?
The lungs, well, yeah, the lungs as well, yeah. Yeah, so what to say? Yeah, I would say, you know, I don't speak in terms of medicine because I don't even trust the pigeonholing that's done in a diagnosis. And you know, even the trauma of a diagnosis. So you know, I'm a bit more freewheeling than you are, because you're obviously, you know, you've got both lenses on the job, which gives you a totally different stereoscopic vision than what I have. Yeah, I mean, the left arm, obviously, in another image you showed me, there was quite a lot of pink on the left shoulder. Can you just go back a bit? There it is on the right shoulder. I'll tell you when to stop. Keep going. Yeah, that one. Back.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that one. You see, on this arm, you've got a thickening of the pink line coming down into the arm. One of them looks quite nice, the outer one. And yeah, I mean, if you just count the pixels on the left arm as opposed to the right arm, it's much darker. It doesn't have the nice bright green rings that the right arm and shoulder has. And that thickening down there as you're pointing, yeah, that all speaks to a kind of cardiovascular weakness, I would say. And of course, in this image, it's very interesting because it doesn't show up in his chakra viewer image, that pink pattern.
Yeah.
In other words, it is a physical issue, not an emotional one.
Oh, okay. Yes.
That's the beautiful thing about having this pair of images, is you can tell whether this is an emotional problem which is becoming physical, or a genuine physical issue caused by industrial pollution in this case.
Yes, that would make sense.
Yeah, so this, you know, I mean, you're gonna have to stop sending me pictures of people, because I'm gonna recommend you hire them all. You know,
Is that get the same vibe here?
Well, yeah, you can just change this guy's life, can't you? I mean, he's a hardworking, brilliant, centered, shamanic fellow who's getting toxed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just, I don't know. There's, you know, he's a really beautiful man.
He really is. He's like just the sweetest person. The other thing I just wanted to ask, would you say, in contrast to the right side of the abdomen, There is more of a pooling type of feature on the left.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's leaning, isn't he? He's his whole axis. I mean, whereas the Roberts plumb line from his nose would have veered to the right of his belly button. In this case, it's quite a long way over to the left, and that's why he's got all the tension in his shoulders and especially in his lower back. I mean, you can see that hot red through his shorts in one of those images. So yeah, I mean, keep going. I'll show the one I'm talking about. Keep going. Just keep going. That's somebody else, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
This was
back.